Campbell McLaren, Combate Global. Tell us about these shows that are going to be coming up. And what it is with Paramount Plus and CBS Sports, you're going to have your live shows, which debut on June 25th, which is today actually. And then you're going to be on Paramount Plus for the English version for the rest of 2021. And then 30 live events in 2022 and 30 live events in 2023, plus recap shows, recapping the week before and talking about what's coming up on the next show. And it'll be on Univision in Spanish, and like I said, Paramount Plus for English, and also CBS Sports Network, cable network as well. What about these recap shows? I'm really interested in the recap shows, and do you even have an idea of who will be handling those, or is that still something down the road?
Yeah, Jim, great questions. Very happy to be part of CBS Sports and Paramount Plus. And yes, we're going to be doing a lot of stuff for them. Now, we've got great fans, great Spanish-speaking fans. They've been following us for quite a few years on Univision. They know we've been around. They've seen our best of shows that do very well in the ratings on Univision. And the new fans that are coming to us and don't speak Spanish, my Spanish is horrible. So we're glad to have fans. If you speak Croatian, you should watch because you'll figure it out. But we're going to go on and show everyone our best fights from the past, how our fighters have developed, how exciting the women's MMA side has been for Combate. So if you watch on Paramount Plus, you're going to be able to see kind of a behind-the-scenes approach. And Max and Juliana Pena are going to be talking about that. If they let me on, I would be happy to join too. And then again, we're also going to go back into our library. We have some spectacular fights from the past because the fighters have always come to Combate to put on a show. Many of our fighters very new, early in their career, and also feel the responsibility to show that Hispanic fighters are world class. So oftentimes these athletes really go far and beyond. I don't think any Combate fighter has ever thought about winning on points. They come to knock somebody out. That's what it's for. So we got a lot of background. We're going to show the Paramount Plus fans. Great stuff. And before COVID, we did travel through the Americas very extensively and covered not only the U.S. but Mexico and Peru. And we've got great shows from there. And one of my favorite fight cities is Monterrey, Mexico, because they know the sport. And if you go, and like many towns, they will cheer for the hometown favorite and boo the outsider. But what I've seen in Monterrey, if a fighter's doing a good fight and bringing it and putting on a good show, they will cheer that fighter too. And that's the mark of a good fight town, right? Yeah. They like that the fighter is putting it out for them. So we've got in our library, you'll see the whole, a lot of the Americas. And going forward, what are we going to do? We're still figuring this out. I mean, just to be very, very truthful about it.
Right, because you haven't been able to have fans, just like so many other sports have not been able to. Now you start to see coming back some, and I was curious to ask if there is any timeline or time frame as to when the company will be doing shows on the road and having fans in attendance.
Well, I'm going to give you a scoop, Jim, because you are one knowledge. I got to say, we all do a lot of interviews in this business, and sometimes there's a lot of knuckleheads, and so these are good questions. I think we're going to do a minimum of 4 live events next year. Not sure where, but they will be our bigger shows.
Yes.
The Copa will probably be one, right, at the end of next year. I'll also scoop a little bit here. We are looking into doing multiple studio shows from Mexico City and from Madrid. So that's pretty cool. So we go, and when I was thinking about it, I go, I'm only going to do cities that begin with the letter M. Miami, Mexico City, and Madrid. But look, that shows Combate is truly global. And we're also bringing fighters, and action from places that you might not have seen before, right? We do a lot of shows in Mexico City. It's a great city, right? Madrid, a fantastic city with a great boxing tradition, right? So I think we're going to do some exciting stuff. I believe we will do 4 live venue shows next year.
You're always thinking, and you're a trendsetter. You're ahead of the game, and I'm curious to go into that brain. Is there something in there that you want to do whether it's with Combate Global or an extension of Combate Global or anything, if you can say that, okay, this is what we're doing now, and this is great, and I'm building this, and we're building this. It's a family atmosphere, a team atmosphere. Is there something else going on there too, whether it be an MMA or something else that you're in? You said that soccer country versus country, and the Copa, that's so great. But is there anything else that you got?
You know, everything is through the filter of Combate that I do and think about. But what you got to think about what's happening in media, our lives, and entertainment, and there's literally this collision of social media and call it stuff. I don't always like the word content because it sounds so clinical, right? But stuff. So how does the fan be really immersed in what's happening, right? Other than being in the La Jaula and getting punched or kicked. But that's what I think is interesting. This area where look, TikTok, a couple years ago when TikTok was not even blowing up, just starting. And I said to my team, I said, we got to look at this. One of them said, if we have to do this, I quit. Because they didn't want to be doing, like 12-year-olds dancing. But listen, that's 2 years ago. That 12-year-old's 14 or 15 now, right? And in 2 or 3 years, they're going to be 17 or 18. So you need to think about this. Where do we bring this together where that you can interact with the thing you love and consume the back, right? How do you watch and win, so to speak? How do you get involved? How do you let yourself be heard? How do you bring in your friends and watch together, whether it's live, on a phone, on your thumb, whatever it's going to be. But I think and I use the word collision of social media and content is what's going to define sports 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So I'm trying to get ahead of that.
It's interesting.
So all I have to do is talk to people that are like 12, 13, 14. They explain everything to me.
Well, it lends itself then, maybe you should get a 12, 13, or 14-year-old to co-host or host something.
It's not a bad idea.
Right?
Not a bad idea.
Because I've seen
YouTube. Look.
That's what I was going to say to you. I see 12, 13, 14 teenagers. Teenagers
Logan
that
Paul
are doing stuff that are unbelievable.
Mr. Beast and PewDiePie, they're adults. They're grown. They grew up on YouTube, right? They matured on YouTube. I think YouTube is over in this part of it now. What's next? Right? YouTube was started for you to be the tube. The boob tube is what TV was called.
I know that.
Right? It's the boob tube. So is YouTube now at this point of the thing? Maybe, right? So what's next? And I think one of the things we do at Combate is we always think about people like highlights. We tend to think of our whole fight as a highlight, right? We don't do 5-round championship fights. We do 3-round. I watched the McGregor-Mayweather fight with my son, my youngest, who's 19 now, but he would have been, 14 or 15, right? And we're watching it, and it's fun. And he goes, Dad, how long are boxing matches? He is someone that will watch something that interests him like for a long time, but he's also aware of how much investment he will put into a single piece of content. And for him, not knowing how long this was going to play out was anxiety producing. So that really helped me think through Combate. Combate, the fights are fast, it's short, it's 3 rounds. And when we do a tournament, you fight 3 fights in one night in 25 minutes total. So Combate, it's fast, it's action, and it's really geared towards people that love highlights. We're all highlights.
It really is. When you watch those sports shows at night to find out what's going on in the day, that's what it is. It's all highlights. So it really is capturing that. And you mentioned, like, the young people. Yes, the teenagers are building their own platforms now. And then as they get older, they've branded themselves and built it up. And they're not their content, but their stuff that they have on there.
I just don't like content. Too impersonal.
Tell us about your commentary teams, and we'll start wrapping this up. But it's just amazing. Now, we did the English version, but your Spanish commentary team, I'll tell you what, I watch on Univision. I don't know a lot of Spanish either, and I've lived down here in South Florida for a long time, and we're in Miami, and it's going to be at Univision, again, at their studios, which is great production. But that, you could just hear the excitement, though, in their voices.
Don't you like watching soccer in Spanish? Yes. Right? Because it's like, go! Like, the excitement level is through the roof. And what we've done on the Spanish side, too, is bring in a number of very high-level fighters, like Juliana Pena, Marcelo Roja, who's a great fighter in the UFC, used to fight for us. But he is terrific. What you got to remember is in the commentary business, look, it's a visual medium, so you have to have a look, right? It's a audio medium, so you have to be able to talk the talk, right? You have to, and you have to make it interesting. So there's a lot of fighters who, as Michael Framowitz, our head of fights, says, some guys can only do one thing good, and most of the fighters just fight. But those that can speak and think and analyze become a very valuable part of the team, right? So when Marcelo, when Roja's in there, it's great. And we have a few other folks that we're going to be adding in during the year. But when you think about Juliana Pena, Max Brados, the other announcers, that have been watching, and I've seen a lot of MMA in my life and career, but our view, we see this way into the cage, right? Juliana Pena knows the view looking out. It's a very different view. Like, we're looking in, we know what's happening, we know where this could go. She's in there. She's not looking in. She is in La Jaula. And that's a world of difference. And you see it in other sports. But the action in MMA is so contained in arm's length. Right? So the commentary becomes more critical because you have sometimes less time to see what's happening. And the setup is different too. Like, we talk a lot about Latin fighters will take a punch to give two, right? How do you set that up? And then you see some of our fighters like David Martinez, the Black Spartan, who uses kicks the way boxers use punches. His jab is, with a foot. And then he sets you up. And of course, his sister, Super Melly, who's just spectacular, has got 3 knockouts with liver kicks. So a lot of the new fans don't know what happens when you get kicked in the liver. You shut down. Because you know why? You need your liver. So, when you get a fighter's perspective on that, right? It's not just a kick, it's a liver kick. And when you get kicked in the liver, it really hurts. Right? So that's a technical description of what happens when you get kicked in the liver. So I think having great commentary is an important part, right, of what Combate does. But it's not just great commentary, it's the right commentators too, because we are trying to represent this young brand as exciting, as fun, as entertaining. And we're all good looking. Everybody's good looking.
Well, Campbell McLaren, I'm going to wrap this up. We're running out of time, but I did also want to ask about the ring announcers. Your ring announcers are just, especially, you could tell us, the ring announcer and incredible talent. And then you also had Miami's Rodolfo Roman do a show as well, which is really cool. They mix the English and Spanish during their ring announcers just so fluidly. It's so really cool. So we'll try to get this in and wrap this up on the ring announcing.
Ring announcing, Lupe Contreras, I think, is just the best in the business. And Rodolfo is an Rodolfo Roman, all-purpose, all-around good guy and very talented, and steps in when Lupe typically has a big boxing match. That's why he's not there. But, if you're a boxing fan, you know who Jimmy Leonard is. right?
Jimmy Lennon Sr. and Jimmy Lennon Jr. I go back to Jimmy Lennon Sr. actually at the Olympic Auditorium in LA, but and now Jimmy Lennon Jr.
Yeah, and thank you for reminding me of that, because I did forget that. And Jimmy did our first show in Mexico City, and he's the most popular ring announcer in Mexico, right? And he's this, he went to Harvard. Irish guy went to Harvard, most popular ring announcer in Mexico. But that's a clash, a mix of cultures that makes the world so exciting, right? But I saw Jimmy do this, and he's great at it, and that's what we wanted to do. And I think there's also, one of the things I love about Miami is you're here, and you hear the Spanish, and then you also hear La Parking Lot. Right, like this mix of languages is what makes the world go round, in my opinion. So you hear TKO. I mean, it's a TKO, right? And frontera a frontera, right? Face to face, right? It's like this great mix of words and slogans, but you're gonna know what it means, either in English or in Spanish. You're gonna figure it out. Lupe is great, and I love the voice of Lupe. Where does that come from? I think he's got a button or something, because I mean,
A voice box. He's got a voice box, I think.
It is just fantastic.
Thank you so much, Campbell McLaren, and go Combate Global!